When it comes to high stakes in horror, the mind instantly goes to Saw. It's the perfect example of a film exploiting all the tension and the fear surrounding the threat of death, and then gamifying it to make it more palatable. It can be easy to forget, however, that there's plenty of other films out there who take a stab at the whole death game shtick, and some of them even do it very well. From traps and contraptions to mind games and murderous strangers, these high-stakes films have it all, and with the added bonus that you've probably never seen them before. I'm Amy from What Culture, and here are 10 high-stakes horrors you've never heard of. 10. Shook. Another addition to the ever-growing list of social media critical movies, Shook follows influencer Mia as she navigates a series of sadistic tasks set out for her. The stakes? The lives of her 3 closest influencer friends, including her boyfriend. Following the murder of a fellow makeup influencer by way of a stiletto to the head, Mia decides to do something selfless for once and agree to dog-sit her sister Nicole's dog. Moping around her childhood home, she takes a brief moment to mourn her recently deceased mother, before then having that moment snatched away from her and being thrown into peril. From answering a series of upsetting questions, including what were your mother's final words, to carrying out some painful and humiliating tasks, Mia really has to put herself through the ringer in order to save her friends. Honestly, anyone watching quickly realizes her friends are garbage people and certainly weren't worth the effort, which actually makes Mia's dedication all the more impressive. 9. Kill theory. It's not unfair to say that in horror, a secluded woodland cabin never seems like a good place to be. Case in point, for the first time in this list now, we're heading to one with kill theory. After a group trip to the lake house goes bad, a group of friends are faced with a threat that if more than one of them survives until 6 a.m. the next morning, they'll all die. This is no empty threat. On the TV, they're shown a video of one of their friends refusing to commit a murder and being promptly killed herself. So better get to it, I guess. What first begins cooperative soon turns cutthroat, no pun intended, as the friends battle with the choice of survival or martyrdom. One person seems to be the orchestrator behind it all, setting out obstacles including tire spikes and bear traps just to further trip the group up. With love triangles, a mysterious madman, and the ever-impending threat of death, it's everything you look for in a cabin in the woods horror. 8. Fermats Room. Ever since seeing Star Wars and New Hope's trash compactor scene, I think all of us have harboured at least a slight fear of the walls closing in around us. For the most part, this fear is completely unwarranted, as the chances of being crushed by the average room are very low, but never zero. In this 2007 Spanish feature, some of the country's best mathematicians are invited to a convention of sorts by an elderly man using the alias Fermat. Locked in a room, they're presented with a series of puzzles to solve. Should they fail to solve them or solve them outside of their given time limit, the walls close in bit by bit. The average maths exam is stressful enough without death by crushing being your motivation to succeed. At the same time as trying to survive their ever-nearing death, the group have to figure out who it was that put them in this room and why. It's an escape room style film, but minus the usual expectation of egregious gore and bloody tasks. Not every test-based movie has to be a Saw ripoff, and this one executes a simpler but equally tense premise well. 7. Cadaver. Set in a dystopian future where the world is subdued by a nuclear winter, one family's invited for a night of theatre and food at a nearby manor house. With the misery and hunger they're used to enduring, this seems almost too good to be true, and spoiler alert, it is. The thing about the deal here is that those who enter the manor don't even know what's at stake. They're completely unaware that on setting foot on the premises, they're never meant to leave. It's a bit like a game where the rules are entirely unspoken. In order to survive the situation, they have to figure out what's going on to outsmart the powers that be, and the reward you get for doing this is your survival on the condition of playing along. Who would have thought that escaping a murderous manor house would be your biggest problem in the nuclear apocalypse? 6. The Bellco Experiment. Starting a new job is always nerve-wracking, but when new Bellco Industries employee Danny turns up for her first day and is told that she has to have a tracker input into her neck, she probably should have taken that as a cue to run far, far away. As everyone arrives for another boring day at the office, they get an injection of action that they definitely could have done without. They're told that if they don't kill a certain amount of fellow employees within the set time limit, double that amount will die by having the tracker in their neck explode. Split into two factions, one planning on carrying out the murders and the other conscientiously objecting, the employees find themselves in an impossible situation that really does put their company loyalty to the test. Gradually, more people die and the disembodied voice instructs more murders. It's kill or be killed, but also if you don't kill enough people, you'll die anyway. Really just seems like a lose-lose situation. With a workplace like that, working from home sure sounds great just about now. 5. Funhouse. It's a format we all know and sort of love. Big Brother exploitative reality TV meets internet vlogger nightmare. This film is essentially Love Island, but if there was more murder, with 8 social media stars being invited to a luxury house to participate in what they think is your run-of-the-mill reality TV show. You know the drill, it's a bunch of people who are watched 24/7 in a house. They have to put their most performative foot forward, and every few days, the person the audience likes the least is voted off. The only difference here is that when you get voted out, it's not your reputation that takes a hit, it's your life that's on the line. Being the least popular contestant makes you liable to fight to the death with no way of escape. Your options are win or die. The social commentary is anything but subtle, but doesn't go so far as to be cringy and stifling, and the kills are just on the right side of the gory, sadistic line. In a world where everywhere we look there's yet another influencer, it can be kind of therapeutic to watch a movie that unceremoniously dispatches of them to serve a slightly clunky metaphor. 4. 31. If there's one thing this list has been missing so far, it's clowns. 31 is a Rob Zombie production from 2016, similar in tone to his previous film, The Devil's Rejects, from over a decade earlier. In the film, a group of carnival workers are kidnapped and forced to play a sick game of chase through a seemingly never-ending maze of rooms. The game shares its name with the title of the film, but for some reason is 12 hours long, not 31. Its purpose is to entertain a trio of aristocrats dressed in period costume, who bet on the participants' odds of survival. It's all very bizarre, very Rob Zombie. Whilst trying to find their way out to freedom, the game's unwilling participants must battle 5 horrifying clowns, who are hell-bent on torturing and murdering them. Just to add a little spice, however, the aristocrats add in another, more vicious clown, Doomhead. Yes, it's a stupid name. All of the other clowns' names also follow the same something head pattern like Sex Head or Psycho Head, but trust me, it doesn't actually make them any less terrifying. If nothing else, it's a film that's bound to get your heart racing at least a couple times. 3. Vile, 2011. Heading more towards the Saw vibe now, we have the appropriately named Vile, and this also marks our second trip to a cabin in the woods for this list. After being knocked out by a stranger on the highway, a group of friends wake up to find themselves locked in a cabin with a bunch of new strangers. Each of them has a device inserted into their neck. This device, if not taken care of, will inject poison into their brains and kill them. The way to remove the devices, they're told by a video, is to complete a number of tasks that involve inflicting horrible suffering onto the other people stuck in there with them. They have to cause enough pain to each other to fill up a meter of sorts, with different actions earning different percentage raises. Everyone has to work together to devise a way to best execute the tasks and survive, but as is always the case, things soon devolve into a much more chaotic arrangement. There's a pretty gross range of torture inflicted on the people, both by themselves and fellow prisoners. With their lives and the lives of each other on the line, we see just how far people are willing to go, whether that's by pulling out fingernails or slicing and dicing innocent people. 2. 13 Beloved. 13 Beloved is a Thai horror comedy that spawned a film you may know better, 13 Sins with Mark Webber. The original, however, is a little different. A down-on-his-luck salesman receives a call telling him that he can earn some quick money by completing a very simple task. He simply has to swat a fly and instantly he gets transferred the equivalent of about $330. Easy enough, right? As soon as he completes the task, he receives another phone call instructing him to eat the fly for more money. And here begins the downward spiral as the missions become increasingly immoral and intense. As his friends and the police become concerned about what's going on, the game is revealed to go much deeper than we ever expected, and our protagonist is forced to debate how far he can go for just money. It's a setup that's been done before, but doesn't play into tired stereotypes, managing to stay engaging throughout. 1. Ruin Me. When you get a horror film based around in-movie horror fanatics, you know you're in for a treat. In this offering, a group of friends take a trip to a slasher sleepout, essentially a very big, long escape room set in a forest. It's meant to be one big game, sort of like a haunted house experience. Each attendee is informed that they have a safe word, that they can be touched by the people conducting it but can't touch them back. You know, the standard procedure at most horror experiences to prevent people from punching some poor actor in the face. Our protagonist is the only one of her group that isn't really into horror movies, so you can kind of understand when she's less than impressed when this experience turns bad. With the least horror experience of them all, she finds herself thrown in at the deep end when she has to deduce who's killing off the attendees. It's a really great setup with a mix of meta humor and slasher self-indulgence. After watching it, however, you can't be blamed for maybe sitting out the next escape room trip with your mates. And on that note, we've reached the end of this list of 10 high-stakes horrors you've never heard of. Which of these games do you reckon you could survive? Let us know in the comments down below. And remember to check out whatculture.com for more lists and articles like this every single day. I've been Amy from What Culture, and I'll catch you next time.